Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Aaron2420, and I am bringing you guys my MPL Week 5 game versus CJ, coach of the Baltimore Oriolus. Now, I'm going to quickly get into my team as I don't have a ton of time this week, but of course, the usual, if you enjoy, like, subscribe, comment down below. Check out all my links, including Twitter and Discord in the description below. Front office is linked there as well. They helped build a lot this week and mock as well. And they did a good job mocking. However, it was in vain, and I will get into why when it comes to the game itself. Now, first off, I would like to start off with my team. So, my team this week, I started off with the Jirachi. I brought Stealth Rocks in this thing, mainly just because Jirachi was my only rocker that I felt capable of coming to this match as a Stealth Rocker. I also brought Flash Cannon, Psychic, and Hidden Power Fire this week. The Psychic and Hidden Power Fire, and, well, the Hidden Power Fire was mainly to touch things like Metagross. Also, it kind of hits Serpwell, but it was mainly just so Metagross did not wall me out. I had also Psychic and Flash Cannon, as Flash Cannon mainly just to hit Aromatisse fairly well. Psychic hit things well, like, it hits even Zard fairly well, but it was mainly for, like, Hitmontop, Quillfish, Crobat. He has fairly decent Psychic weakness. Oh, and Hidden Power Fire was also for Escavalier. I forgot that was a thing on CJ's team. I can't even remember if he brought it, to be honest, but I'll go into that when I get to the actual matchup itself. So, that is it for Jirachi this week. Next up, I brought Terrakion. I actually also, this week, I think I mentioned it last week that Rock Polish Terrakion cost me my game. Well, I sort of needed Rock Polish Terrakion again one last time, and I brought it with Earthquake, Stone Edge, Close Combat, and Rock Polish with an Adamant Nature, mainly just meant to outspeed. I believe I sped cut this thing for a Scarf Crobat, if I'm not mistaken. I forget what I sped cut before, but I know that I sped cut it for actually, I think I sped capped it for Scarf Greninja. I know I sped capped it for either Greninja or Superior as a Scarfer. I didn't feel Crobat could even come to this matchup, let alone as a Scarf user. Scarf Superior could just spam Leaf Storm first in my team, quite literally, and probably get a bunch of kills once Jirachi dies. And that's just my matchup in general, besides Superior, Mega Ampharos, and Mega Ampharos can't really come to this matchup for fairly obvious reasons. A lot of my team gets whittled down surprisingly easily by a Scarf Leaf Storm, though obviously I don't really expect Scarf Surf. If any of its fast mons if any of his fast mons I expect it to be Greninja, that's a Scarfer, as Scarf Gren could do a fair amount, but Superior still obviously is getting outsped. I just need to outspeed all his common Scarfers that I felt could come this game. Next up, I brought Taiga, our Incineroar, with Careful Nature and Assault Vest, mainly for things such as the Superior, of course, and this can actually guarantee KO with Flare Blitz, so that is very nice. I have Flare Blitz, U-Turn, Knockoff, and Iron Head. Intimidate, of course, for things like the Zardex, U-Turn to pivot on the Zard before it sets up, and I can go into something like Suicune, for example. I have Knockoff for things like the Metagross if I don't want to necessarily take a bunch of damage. And Knockoff can still do a fair amount, and then I can potentially U-Turn on it, depending on his investment. I also have Iron Head for Aromatisse, as that was really the only mon I couldn't really touch with this spread without killing myself off with Flare Blitz. Next up, I have Waifu, my Florges, with Wish, Moonblast, Defog, Aromatherapy. I really didn't need much offensively on this thing, so I just brought Stab Moonblast. Wish is mainly to regen things like my Incineroar, for example, also my Suicune, as neither of them have recovery of their own, including, I don't think either of them even have leftovers. I know at the very least Incineroar doesn't. I'm mixing up if I brought a Barrier or not this game. I'm fairly certain it was leftover spread. So, at the very least, they don't have any reliable recovery, so Florges obviously helps with that. Defog is mainly because I don't really have any of their Defoggers this week, so Defog, Florges is fairly nice with that, and Aromatherapy, of course, in case CJ gets some Toxic Spikes and I can't clear them away. Or at the very minimum, I can clear away statuses that were already inflicted because of Toxic Spikes. Next up, I have Pisces, our Suicune, with Protect, Toxic, Scald, and Roar, mainly as a deterrent for Zardex, as Zardex does a fair amount to this team so far. If it gets +2, this is my only mon that can even take it. Zardex was actually very, very scary because of the team he brought, and I'll get into why in the actual game, but it was a very uphill battle versus CJ, let's just say. Finally, we brought 2 Spoopy for you, our Gourgeist, with Seed Bomb, Will-O-Wisp, Shadow Sneak, and Synthesis. This was mainly as a way around things such as Metagross, Donphan, pretty much any physical attacker not named Zardex that I can Will-O-Wisp. It also takes its fairly okay from Superior. Not great, but I didn't exactly need a ton of extra mons, I guess, this week, so I sort of went with it. In hindsight, some things that I could have brought this game potentially were things like Agility. Agility Mega Ampharos kind of did okay in this matchup. Not the greatest, but I feel like I could have potentially at least brought it over Gourgeist. Something else that could have been great would have maybe been like a Mandibuzz, or really just a backup answer to Superior, like a Selgor. That's a mon that probably should have came over Gourgeist at the very least. So that was definitely an oversight. Overall, though, let's get right into the game. So as you can see, CJ brings the Zardex, the Greninja, the Xurkitree, the Superior, Qwilfish, and Donphan. So against CJ's team, my overall play is I'm expecting him to probably either lead off with Xurkitree and potentially go for a Volt Switch, or Qwilfish to set up T-Spikes, or Donphan to set up Rocks. So he actually decides to bait me and switch out with his, well, lead off with his Zardex as I let off my Jirachi. So this is already extremely terrifying because I don't really have any great Mon to switch into besides like Suicune. And if he just goes for Outrage, it's very scary. Obviously I can go into Florges, but depending on what he goes for, this could be a very, very dangerous turn right here. So I switch out as he Mega Evolves, of course, into his Zardex, and this definitely caught me off guard, not gonna lie, but I 100% get why he did it, and it was a very, very solid bring versus my team. So he actually goes for a Swords Dance here. I forgot Zard actually got Swords Dance, and when I saw this, I immediately shit myself, because if he brought Outrage, he very well could just kill me off right here and sweep, because assuming he doesn't hit himself in Confusion, because Floor just like couldn't kill. Luckily though, Suicune lives barely, and I roar him out. However, unluckily, I bring in Qwilfish here, so that was definitely not exactly what I wanted. I was hoping maybe for something like, even like Xurkitree, to be honest, would have been nice, because I could have dealt with Xurkitree, no matter what its spread was. But sadly here, I decided I'm going to go for Protect. I figured maybe I could scout if he's going to go for like a Toxic or something. He gets some Toxic Spikes here, as it's very unfortunate of what he went into. So here I thought, okay, you know, he's probably just going to get up a full set of Toxic Spikes. I figured he was just going to want to try and Toxic Saw me rather than just get my team poisoned. He sadly withdraws here into his Superior, as I actually double out here into my Jirachi, mainly as a way around the Qwilfish. So this is already going very awful for me, as I can't even like try and plow through the Superior with my Jirachi. I have to try, of course, but I can't exactly reliably do that, as if I get a Spadef drop with like Psychic or something, which I have double chance to because of Serene Grace, Superior just wins at this point. So I get up Rocks as he actually gets off a sub, which is even worse because now I can't even Toxic Salt this thing. So in my head, I am immediately just trying to think of what do I do to this damn Superior. So I bring out my Gourgeist, and I figured that maybe I can like sack this thing or something and just try and play around it, because I didn't want to switch in my Incineroar. Luckily he goes for the Leech Seed here, and I can't get Leech Seeded, so we didn't even get the chance to set up. Sadly, my Gourgeist got poisoned, but luckily it was only a regular poison, as I don't see myself having any chance to Aromatherapy here. I go for Shadow Sneak, and I just try and break the sub, or at the very least do some damage to the sub. He goes for Taunt here, which means that I now know his moveset, his only offensive move could possibly be Leech Seed. Not Leech Seed, Leaf Storm. So that is good, except for it doesn't really matter, because I only have like Jirachi and Incineroar to take the hits, and neither of them can exactly beat a sub Superior overly well. So I'm just trying to break his sub at this point with Gourgeist, and maybe trying to get him to sub up while I switch in something else to counter this thing. So he goes for a Leaf Storm here, of course, gets himself to +2, and I broke his sub luckily with my Shadow Sneaks. But I'm still very, very concerned because CJ has essentially just wined and dined me here. He gave me the wine, of course, of trying to set up Wizard and letting me luckily live with my Suicune, but now he's eating my team's ass. So that's very unfortunate, because I literally have to just sack my Gourgeist here, because if I switch in anything else as he gets off a sub, he's just going to have more HP left, and then potentially Leech Seed as he keeps the sub up, and then just spam Leaf Storm, and that's very unfortunate for me. Obviously, had I went Incineroar here, though, I could have potentially tried to break his sub and then get him out earlier. However, that didn't occur to me, and I thought, okay, you know, I just have to break his sub, as Incineroar can definitely take any hit, and I could potentially just try and beat it after I break its sub. So right now, I have officially sacked my Gourgeist, and it's already 6-5. And at this point, I am very, very less concerned with making good plays, more so worried that I'm going to get 6-0'd. So CJ, of course, has his Superior here behind its sub, and it still has HP left for the sub. I bring in my Incineroar here, of course. I figured that I could take any hit, no matter what, as I could definitely take a Leaf Storm because of my Assault Vest, and my decent Spadef investment. Won't take it well exactly, but I will at least take one. So because of his sub, of course, I can't even like Flare Blitz and kill this thing. Luckily though, his Leaf Storm doesn't do any damage at all, even for +4, now +6 Leaf Storm. I decided here I'm going to go for a Flare Blitz, as if I went for a U-turn, I had to switch out here, and a Flare Blitz allowed me to still break the sub. In hindsight, I probably could have went for Knockoff, to be honest, However, I didn't really think about that. I don't know why I didn't think about that, as knockoff would have kept me a little more HP, which meant I could have better dealt with the Superior. However, it's not too big of a deal, as Incineroar is just going to die anyway at very soon moments. So he does bring in his Qwilfish here. Of course, it's probably his main way around Incineroar, as 1, you switch it in, 2, it is Intimidate, 3, it's a water types, you know. Also, his item, I believe, was Rocky Helmet. I know we'll find out in a second if it was Rocky Helmet, obviously, but I know he was obviously BizDef Qwilfish with Intimidate, so he's going to chew through any of these hits. And yeah, I was going to say, I could have sworn he's Rocky Helmet. So that's only more chip he's getting between my Flare Blitz, his Helmet, and my Poison. So at this point, I am essentially in Rocks range, so I decided I'm just going to sack my Incineroar, because if he gets up Rocks late game, as he does have the Donphan to do so, and I can't clear hazards in time, because let's say he kills off my Florges, then it's just a sack. So I sacked, and I figured I can go right into Jirachi, because I can't get poisoned. I can just go for a free Psychic on whatever he brings in. Rocks are still up, so Zard can't exactly switch in as comfortably, which is very nice for me. He does decide here to bring in his Circuitry, and I figured this was a little nice that he's bringing in his Circuitry now, because I figured Circuitry's probably Scarfed, and also the fact that I got a fair amount of damage off on it. So I decide here that I'm just going to say it in Psychic. He actually Volt Switches here. In hindsight, I don't know why I didn't predict the Volt Switch, as it allows him to come back in and just spam it again versus pretty much anything on my team, as I don't think I have a Scarf for this week. So he brings in his Greninja here, which means that he is not only going to have taken no damage against Psychic, but he saved his Circuitry for another day to terrorize through my team. So he does have his Greninja here, of course, and can do a fair amount of damage like Dark Pulse or something. So I figured I kind of have to switch out into my Suicune. I figured I might as well just stack at this point, because between the Poison and whatever damage he goes for the Suicune that will most likely kill me off, I don't exactly have ways to preserve this. Even if I somehow got to Wish Pass, which is very unlikely that I will, I wouldn't have enough HP to necessarily beat Zard unless I got like 2 wishes in. So he brings in his Circuitry here, as I am going to take poison damage and a bunch of other damage. So I decide here that I am actually going to just kill myself off, because I don't want the Circuitry getting a Beast Boost, because if it just stays in Thunderbolts and gets a Beast Boost, that is very damaging for me. So I protect here, because luckily I do not give him Beast Boost if I kill myself off. So he reveals that he was going to go for a Volt Switch anyway, so he wouldn't have kept the boost exactly, but it would have given him initiative. Now I know his Circuitry is in here, and I can play around that better. So regardless, it was definitely the play to make, no matter what he did here. So obviously he does have his Circuitry in here. I bring in my Terrakion, as I know I can live a Volt Switch, and I think that at this point I really just have to click Rock Polish and hope I can sweep through his team. It's my only play. I'm going to probably need a lot of crits because of Qwilfish, but it's fine. He still has a Donphan left as well, so that's another reason I'm going to have to definitely crit, but I don't exactly have a lot of options at this point, and I figured at the very least, this will stop a 6-0. So I go for a Rock Polish here, and I figured that next turn, I can always just click a Z move. Earthquake was a roll to not kill at this point, and Liquidation, if he did that plus Aqua Jet, I'm certain he would have killed. So I sort of just had to go for my Granium Z here, at least, because at bare minimum, while I realistically should have probably saved this for Donphan and then hoped I crit through the Donphan and possibly killed it, I guess, I felt like it was more important to guarantee I don't get 6-0'd, because a 6-0 loss is a lot worse than a 5-0. So I decided I'm just going to go for the Z move, because the Z move guarantee kills the Qwilfish, and maybe I'll just get ridiculously lucky versus the rest of his team. And maybe CJ will choke and then get more kills. So that's exactly what I did. I killed the Qwilfish with my Earthquake. Yeah, I didn't risk the crit here, I guess. He brings in now, of course, his Donphan here, which I also just remembered was practically at full health, so this thing 100% beats me. So I do have to switch, of course. I decide I'm going to switch on my Florges. I figured I can get decent damage off with Moonblast. I can also try and maybe wish up my Terrakion, maybe get a little more HP to fight back later. He gets Rapid Spin here, so I don't exactly have a lot of options to set up my rocks again, because pretty much everything on his team at this point, besides like the Superior, can beat through my Jirachi. So I don't exactly have the freeness that I did if he had Qwilfish, let's say, that I can set up rocks on, which is very unfortunate. So he does withdraw here, and he goes right into his Zard, which essentially at this point means that I have lost the game, because I can defog the Toxic Spikes away all I want. It's not going to change anything exactly at this point, because he could just Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz guaranteed does kill my Florges no matter what at this point. I had remembered it from other mocks, because the fucking Tough Claws boost is insane on this Mon. So obviously the Flare Blitz has blown through my Florges at this point, and my Jirachi dies to a Flare Blitz at this point. So I'm sort of just banking on my Terrakion possibly winning. So at this point, I am deciding that I kind of want to just try and see if he can just whittle himself down more with Flare Blitz. Maybe get some nice chip on him to the point where I can kill with even, let's say, an Earthquake. Because if he's really bulky Zard, he could potentially still live in Earthquake, as I, of course, wouldn't have a Swords Dance or any boosting item. So I figured here that I'm just going to bring in my Terrakion. Of course, he's taking a lot of damage. I'm going to try instead of a Rock Polish here, thinking that I'm slower than him. I'm actually faster than him. But even then, it was also for things like the Scarf Circuitry, which could have easily came in to revenge me. And sadly, he goes for the Outrage here. It would have been nice to have went for Outrage first and then brought up my Jirachi while he was locked into it and get some kills. But even then, I still lost 100% to Greninja at that point. So overall, fantastic game to CJ. Of course, you guys should check him out along with the rest of the MPL coaches. Very, very shitty loss, I guess. We played awful. Obviously, CJ played phenomenal. CJ definitely earned the win. It's not like I'm salty at CJ or anything. It's more so just I'm salty at how I played. I think I played definitely really awful, and it's going to take a lot to get back to a winning position at this point. So hopefully we do better in the coming weeks. I'm hoping to at least get one win in the MPL, because we're #never won at this point, besides the win that Melon gave us before we took over the team. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. We take on Blue Rogue, coach of the AFC Womrmadams, I believe. I'm fairly certain his initials are at least AFC, and I know it's a Womrmadam team, and I'm fairly certain that's the team. But correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. And we will see you guys next week, though. Peace out.